Right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. So in today's episode, I interview Bekki Rupp, who is a fantastic hiker, fantastic coach, and she comes on the episode to talk through how she helps her hikers and other adventurers get ready for their outdoor pursuits. And she talks through some ideas, some philosophies around how she goes about getting people in a great physical position for their adventures. So really fantastic episodes. Always great to have another coach on this show to share a different perspective and share some ideas. So I really do hope you enjoy it. And with that being said, let's get into today's episode. Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast, which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare, and conquer your upcoming hike, trek, or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude, and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable, and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome, Bekki, to the show. Really excited to have you on board and great to have you a part of all this.
Thanks, Rowan. Really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
No, awesome. As I was sort of saying before we got on the call, it's absolutely amazing connecting with other people in this space, doing the training for adventure, because as I always say, there's so many hikers out there, so many adventurers out there, but, there's not so many professionals who specialize in preparing people for it. So it's always good to connect. And I'm really looking forward to having you on this episode today. So I guess to kick things off, do you just want to, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what do you do?
Sure, absolutely. So I am based in Colorado in the United States, so middle of the country and right at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. So I have the absolute privilege to look outside my window every day and see the mountains that I get to go hike in. Moved from Denver a few years ago. Denver's the metro area that's due east of the mountains. And so now I'm right in the heart of it. So I'm very excited to be here. And like I said, I'm very lucky. So let's see, I got my personal training certification in 2011. So quite a bit ago. And I was working a corporate job for a health insurance company at the time, and found that it was really a struggle to use it and to be able to help clients the way I wanted to help them. So kind of went along that path for a while with that little struggle. And then in 2019, I decided to leave my corporate job and do personal training and coaching full time. And in the meantime, I also got a health coaching certification. So kind of those two things paired together, I felt like gave me a good foundation to really help people, both with the physical and the mental parts of getting physically active or kind of adjusting their physical activity for a specific goal. And because I'm a big hiker and I also, bike a lot and do a lot of different adventure things, decided to focus on helping people get ready for adventure trips. I've been able to do several trips myself and have seen, how people can thrive when they have prepared for them. And I've also seen people struggle when they haven't. And it's just a shame because you put a lot of time and money into going on these trips. And if you're not putting in the time and effort in advance, you can get left a little short. And so I decided to focus on that area and help others enjoy their adventures. And also, what I've found with a lot of my clients is it's kind of a kickstart for them to make changes for the rest of their lifestyle as well, to kick their activity into gear and really find the way to make their life healthier and happier and be able to do more and more things that they enjoy. So that's kind of how I came into this.
Yeah, fantastic. And then I guess when we're talking about, you personally, what are some of your, favorite outdoor pursuits? And, if you're thinking back, what was probably the best outdoor adventure that you've ever been on for whatever reason?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I hike a lot. I bike. I do both road biking and mountain biking. And, I have been a sea kayak guide, so I do some paddling. Now I don't live near, I don't live near the coast. I used to live, right on the Atlantic Ocean. And so I did some sea kayaking there, but now I live on a river, Whitewater River. So we do a little bit of whitewater paddling here. And I also live very close to a ski resort. So, I ski quite a bit. I actually work 1 day a week up at our local ski mountain. So, kind of the whole mix of things. And I just, I love it when I can do all of those things. Sometimes I can do all of those things in 1 day here. It's kind of weird the way the weather works, but up in the mountains it can be snowy, and then down here it can be nice. So, but let's see. I think you asked what was the best outdoor adventure I've been on. And, I think I have to go back to one of my first like real outdoor adventures was I took an outward bound trip back in the mid 90s, when I was in my 20s and kind of trying to figure out like, I really loved the outdoors and was trying to decide if I wanted to like go be a guide or do something like that. And, spoiler alert, I decided not to become a full-time adventure guide. Decided that lifestyle was a little more adventurous, I guess, than I wanted, but it was a fantastic experience. I was up in the northwest of the United States, Pacific Northwest in the Cascade Mountains. And, it was really incredible. It was a whole week, and it just really, opened up my eyes to a lot of different things. It was my first experience being up high in the mountains with like being able to see nothing else but mountains around me. And that was just incredible. And it was the first time I camped out overnight by myself. Was part of the program at the time. I'm not sure if it still is, but they kind of cut you loose and say, okay, go find your little spot in the woods and, make your own dinner and set up your camp and spend the night by yourself. And it was slightly terrifying, I have to say. I hadn't done anything like that before. But obviously I got through it, and that was really amazing. I was involved in search and rescue back then, wilderness search and rescue. So I had a lot of skills, but just these new experiences and different ways to enjoy the outdoors was really incredible and a good way to kind of learn a little bit more about myself. So both an external adventure and kind of an internal adventure as well.
And then when it comes to your coaching, like, are there any particular philosophies that you believe, when it comes to, physical preparation and training, for outdoor adventures?
Yeah, I have watched and listened to a lot of your stuff, Rowan. I know we're on the same page about doing not just the activity that you're training to do and, incorporating strength training and balance and stretching and other things. But, I think, philosophically, I also tap into my coaching background, and I really encourage my clients to use their strengths and do what works well for them. So there's a lot of different ways to get fit, to get ready, to strengthen different parts of your body, to get ready. And I find that working with people to find what best suits their, the preferences and their lifestyle, just makes it easier for them, to not just do it for that upcoming trip, but to keep doing it and to really enjoy it. So looking at your strengths and your preferences and find ways that work the best for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess in your experience, what is one thing around physical preparation or training which you think, isn't done so well in the, outdoor adventure world?
Yeah, I think people get really can get kind of tunnel vision on this is the exact way that you have to do this. And, you have to follow this very specific plan. And I don't think people have enough flexibility. And, they don't really look at the whole picture per se for things like, I mentioned before, like balance and strength, stretching and different, full body, strength training. And I think that, people again get just very focused on one specific thing and think that that's all there is to it. And they need to kind of open their eyes a little more and see that there are lots of ways that you can get to your goal.
And I guess aside from that, on the flexibility and that sort of holistic thinking, is there anything else that you think is maybe just not done enough of when it comes to this type of thing?
Yeah, the other thing I see is that a lot of people don't take into enough account for rest. The resting portion, the recovery. It's go, go, go. And, I gotta like check all these boxes and, hike all these miles and do all this stuff. And of course, that needs to happen too, to some extent. But the rest and recovery, I think it's kind of the short end of the stick sometimes. And, we definitely need, as you know, to rest and recover so that we can come back even stronger later.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely something that's neglected so much in the world of, training for hiking. And I guess when you're talking to your clients, when we're talking about rest or recovery, is there anything in particular you recommend to help with that, beyond just having a day off here and there?
Yeah, I think it really, again, depends on the person and their lifestyle. And I like, really customizing things and not getting, again, so wrapped up in this is how it has to be, and talk to clients about what does that mean and what does that look like for them so that they're comfortable with it. And so for some people, resting may be just like, playing with their kids or even their grandkids. I have clients who are old enough to have grandkids. Maybe it's just like taking a day, playing with the grandkids, and maybe, that sort of thing. That's a rest day for them. And for some people, they're like, gosh, I just really don't feel right if I don't go out and at least walk for a couple miles. I'm like, great. Yeah, go walk for a couple miles. Just take it easy and take a slow pace and, look around and appreciate your surroundings. So it can be a mental break as well as a physical break.
And then, I know you sort of said, you do like to obviously customize and have the personal situation and make sure everything's fit 100% right for someone. But I'm going to ask you a really generic question anyway.
Sure.
Do you have any particular just favorite workouts which you like for hikers, and something that, like, I really, really do like to include this in one way, shape or form or another for a lot of my hikers?
Yeah. For most of my hikers, as I mentioned before, I include full body strength training. Now, I came to the strength training game a little later in life. Back in my 20s, I was full on cardio queen, just, the lifting weight stuff that was for those guys who like to sit around in the gym for, hours on end and whatever. But as I've gotten older, the strength training has definitely, become more apparent. And as I learned through my personal training, program, how essential it is for just our functionality, our movement. But I still don't like to spend hours at the gym pumping iron. So I love to have an efficient full body strength, training routine that I share with clients who are kind of still on that, like, oh, I don't love to go to the gym and lift weights, and make it efficient for them so they can get it done in like 30 minutes, rotating through different muscle groups, not this whole like, oh, I'm going to go, just do chest press and then wait 5 minutes and then do another chest press round. Squats and then rest and then squats and then rest. I'm just a big believer in efficiency and just getting it done as best you can. So yeah, I have kind of, several different, formats for that, but I think you have a similar thing. I caught one of your videos I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I do too, rotate through things so that you can bang it out and get it done and go back to hiking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess on that point, like, say there was, you mentioned, back previously, you were a bit of a cardio queen. Like, say someone was listening today and they did classify themselves as, a cardio queen or cardio king. And they were like, you know what, strength training is just not something I'm super interested in or like to do. what
Hmm.
would you recommend to someone in that situation if they were looking at dipping their toe into the world of strength training for their adventures? What piece of
Hmm.
advice or what recommendation could you give them to make that transition, I guess maybe
Hmm.
as smoothly as possible?
Yeah, I think I would just tell them to start small. Again, don't jump in with this huge routine of a bunch of stuff. Maybe just pick one area to focus on. Maybe it's core and, maybe find a few core exercises to do, maybe 5-10 minutes and do it a couple times a week and, see how it feels and see how your body reacts and see what happens. And then, maybe add something else. I'm definitely a big believer in starting small, especially with something that you're just not sure about because, once you start to see the effects and you start to see how much you improve and how much better you feel, then it's easier to add more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually, I've got to say, stop saying absolutely after everything you say, even though I'm in agreement.
I
But I always
know.
get feedback from the listeners are like, just stop saying absolutely, stop saying fantastic. Just, just you say it too much. So I'm going to try and not say it again for the rest of the episode. Um, but yeah, and I guess the next question I kind of had for you is, do you have any particularly, maybe uncommon pieces of advice you might have for hikers who, which maybe they haven't heard before?
Yeah, that's such an unusual question. Um, yeah, I go back to again what I talked about a little bit earlier about using your strengths and preferences. And people might not think about the things that they do in the rest of their lives and applying it to their training. And so this is something I definitely, collaborate with clients on is, what brings you joy and what kinds of things are you really good at in the rest of your life, whether that's in your job or with your family and friends or just something that really, just is personally something that's a thing like your thing. And how can you bring that into training? So, for example, if you like to sing, if that's just something that you really love to do, why not sing while you're hiking or sing while you're doing your strength training? Bring something that you love into your training. If you're detail oriented, then on your, next hike, look for the details and, that can be really helpful from a navigational standpoint and just from a different level of an experience rather than just going out and, walking and, kind of spacing out. So I love to see people incorporate things that are special and meaningful for them into this part of their life.
Yeah, nice one. Nice one. I really do like that. And I think, yeah, that's an awesome, awesome point. And I think if people take the time to really think about that and, spend a bit of time considering it, you come up with some really, really cool combinations and really different nice things to dive into there. So I absolutely love that. And I feel like we've gotten through some pretty quality stuff today on this chat. But is there anything,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we haven't covered so far or anything else you kind of would like to add today or you thought would be particularly valuable to mention at all?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just kind of curious about, what are some of the unusual questions that you've gotten over the years that you've been doing this and kind of, what kinds of unusual things have maybe stumped you or that you've had to, think a little bit more about?
Yeah, it's an interesting one and a lot of the stuff that has kind of stumped me. It's a lot of the things that hikers ask will be, areas where, okay, if you put a little logic into it, you're like, you can usually kind of figure this out on, at least on a training perspective. The stuff that tends
Mm-hmm.
to stump me is stuff that I used to know like 10 years ago. And I know I had a really good answer to it 10 years ago, but I can't for the life of me remember the answer anymore. So I kind of end up just talking around in circles as I'm trying to remember. And then I end up saying, oh, you know what? I can't remember. I need to look into this. So, so when I first started
Yeah.
talking about I guess fat adaptation. And, that's something that a lot of hikers used to ask me
Hmm.
about. And it's not something I'm a massive fan of. But back then, I was, we were talking about it, and I was thinking back to my uni days. I was like, oh my gosh, we spent, a lot of lessons going over this and diving into the depths. And I was like, I can't remember for the life of me right now. So it took me a little while. I had to go back and research it and this and that, but, it came to it. But typically those things, it's just like, you're like, yeah, I could remember this. I used to know this really well, but it just hasn't been at the top of my mind for a while. So no, that's not
Yeah.
super specific examples, but they're the ones that tend to stump me.
Yeah, there's just so much to know. And I'm a big believer in just admitting when I don't know. I get some questions about nutrition and, I absolutely understand the basics, but, if someone has a really specific question about how to, adapt their diet or, per a specific eating plan or, allergy or things like that, I just, really like to either, find the information if I have the level of knowledge, foundationally to get it, or refer them out to other experts. So I have a couple friends who are dietitians and one who specializes in sports nutrition. And, that's just like, yeah, when I don't know, I'm just ready to like hand them off to somebody who does. you know, there's
Yeah.
so many things to know, and there's just so much going on in the world. And, um, but at the same time, if they ask me something and I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's, maybe a popular opinion or it's kind of a fad, I'll absolutely speak up and say, I think that's, maybe kind of a fad. And let's talk about like what's really effective in the long term and what's been proven over time to be effective. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I said absolutely. There we go. I said it. Sorry, listeners. But yeah, and I fully agree in regards to, really, really knowing your strengths in regards to this and sort of areas of,
Yeah.
referring out or getting other specialist advice. And what you mentioned there is exactly what we kind of, I kind of do with my hikers in the sense that, I classify myself as specialist into physical preparation and training for hiking. But then there's all these other sort of peripheral factors that really go into successful adventures that, I might know
Yeah.
a little bit about, but I don't really consider myself as a specialist in. So you mentioned nutrition and, that's an area that, we as personal trainers, we kind of have a good foundational knowledge, but, we wouldn't probably typically call ourselves specialists. So we do exactly the same as
Right.
you. We've got a dietitian who works directly with our clients who specializes in
Mm-hmm.
hikers and listeners will be familiar with, Kyle, who's been on this podcast a few times,
Mm-hmm.
and he directly
Yeah.
helps our hikers. Then lots of people, hikers love to talk about gear and I'm an absolute
Yes.
rat bag when it comes to gear. And I wear the same boots for years and years and years. I have one pack and, I'm rubbish on that front because I like to be really simple. But I realized that was something that lots of people wanted to learn about. So we sort of, got
Mm-hmm.
one of our coaches who was also a guide to start doing Q&As around that, because he had specialist knowledge. And same thing with through
Mm-hmm.
hiking, logistics. I haven't done a through hike, but one of our coaches has. Same thing with, I guess, how do you phrase this? A lot of the ladies that I'd sort of work with are, 40 plus ladies going through certain stages of their life. And obviously I'm not a 40 plus lady, so I don't have first hand experience going through some of those bits and pieces, but one of our coaches is, and she's an expert and she's upskilling in these particular areas. So, and kind of as you said, like it's such an important thing. And I think building out this network in regards to adventure, in regards to training, in regards to preparation, and it's such a cool thing. And we've had so many cool
Mm-hmm.
guests on this podcast previously who've been in particular different areas. And yeah, it's really, I could talk about that for hours, but anyway, it gets me excited talking about that. But before I go off on too much of a tangent, and start
Yeah.
rambling on about that, tell us a little bit more about Trailblazer Wellness, which is your business. Tell us a little bit more about that, what you do, how you go about things and yeah, give some detail on that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I do one-on-one coaching. I do customized training plan based on, the person's current level of fitness and their upcoming adventure, and I'll do a lot of hiking. People who are doing hiking trips, but I also have background in cycling and paddling. As I mentioned, I used to be a sea kayak guide. So I've got a little bit of a mix of of experience there, so I can provide support to people in those different areas. And then I do the coaching piece of it as well. So most of my coaching is virtual, and I include coaching in my packages so that, you can kind of work through the mental and the physical aspects of getting ready for a trip and, work through those challenges, find solutions when we run into certain situations, explore things a little more deeply. As you're getting ready, kind of pull out those learnings, reflect a little bit. And I find that, my clients really appreciate the part of that is it's like starting the journey before you even go on your trip. So it kind of extends that journey a little bit more when you have this kind of intentional and kind of special time to prepare for the trip. And so that's my coaching and training. And I do that virtually. I do in-person personal training in my town here in Central Colorado as well. But most of my work is virtual. So work with people all over the US. I haven't had any internet clients from outside the US yet, but I'm looking forward to that hopefully here in the future.
And then if people did want to get in contact with you to potentially find your content or even potentially work with you, where can they find you? What's the best place to go?
Yeah, it's really simple. Trailblazerwellness.com. And then my email address is just Becki, Becki at trailblazerwellness.com. So, I have a Facebook page, Trailblazer Wellness, Instagram, Trailblazer Wellness. Just try to keep it simple. So
Too easy. Well, what I'll do then is for anyone who's interested in looking up Becki, having a chat, and sort of checking out her stuff, I'll leave links for all of that down in the show notes below, so you can scroll down and check it out and reach out. But aside from that, Becki, it's been absolutely lovely having you on this podcast today. It's been really, really great connecting. Really, really awesome to hear about, how you go about things. And a lot of what you said definitely resonates with me. And I think it will resonate with a lot of listeners today. So it's been awesome having you on. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Ron. I really appreciate it. It's always, like you said, it's fun to connect with those few people who really get it and who are in this space and know what they're talking about and really have the best interests of our clients at heart. And isn't it just like so rewarding to have people come back and be like, oh my God, it was amazing. And all this stuff I did like really worked. And I can't wait to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. That's just the best part to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And seeing those smiles at the top of the mountain or those words of, success, whatever, it's a fantastic thing. So couldn't agree more on that front.
For sure. So let's both keep up the good work and just keep on getting those people out there for those fantastic adventures.
Cool. Whoops. You've been listening to the Training for Trekking podcast. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes. So thanks for getting involved, and we'll see you on the next one.